In 1504, the King of Joseon ordered his stepmothers beaten to death. Then he had their bodies salted, like fish, and scattered across the mountains. But here's the thing that makes this story truly terrifying. This wasn't the act of a madman. This was a plan. A cold, calculated plan that took over a decade to execute. And there was someone who found the one wound that could turn a king into a monster. A woman born into slavery who figured out that if she acted like his mother, the mother who was secretly executed when he was only 7, he would give her anything, including the power to destroy kingdoms. Now everyone thinks they know Yeonsangun, the crazy tyrant, the monster who turned Joseon's palace into his personal playground. But here's what the history books gloss over. For the first 10 years of his reign, everything was fine, peaceful even. So what flipped the switch? Her name was Jang Nok-soo. Today we're tracing both stories, from the secret execution that started everything, to the woman who turned a king's trauma into her personal weapon, to the night 239 people were punished and the bodies were salted. Now, to understand what made Yeonsangun snap, we need to go back, way back, to a boy who didn't even know his mother was dead. His father, King Seongjong, was the model ruler, the man who completed Joseon's legal code and held royal lectures 3 times a day. And then there was his second queen, Lady Yun. She'd risen from concubine, rare in Joseon, and she had a temper. In 1477, they found poison hidden in her quarters, cursed charms. The court debated deposing her. They backed off. 2 years later, she crossed a line nobody comes back from. She scratched the king's face, left nail marks on the face that represented the nation itself. In 1479, she was formally stripped of her title. In 1482, they sent a court official to deliver the poison she was forced to drink, and she died. Her son was 7 years old. His name was Yi-young, the future Yeonsangun, and nobody told him. They sealed every record, silenced every mouth. They gave him a new mother, Queen Jonghyun, and told him she was the real one. He grew up calling another woman mother. For 13 years, he had no idea. Then, in 1495, his first year as king, aged 20, he was reviewing his father's burial records. A routine task, and he spotted a name he didn't recognize. Yun Gi-mu, his maternal grandfather. He asked his ministers, "Who is this man?" And that's when the silence broke. The royal records say it plainly. The king finally learned that Lady Yun had been deposed and killed for her crimes. He stopped eating. A 20-year-old king just found out his entire childhood was a lie, that everyone around him had kept this from him for over a decade. But he didn't explode. Not yet. What came next wasn't rage, it was calculation. From 1494 to 1498, he was a model king, attended royal lectures, maintained his father's policies. The kingdom was at peace, and the whole time, he already knew. Since 1495, he'd known his mother was secretly executed. Then, in 1498, he made his first move. The Muo Sawa. 52 people punished, 6 executed, the rest exiled or stripped of rank. He even had a dead scholar's grave dug up and his corpse desecrated. On the surface, this looked like old guard politics, the Hungu faction using a young king to crush their rivals. But Yeonsangun wasn't the puppet. He was the chess player. He learned the truth in 1495. First Purge, 1498. The real Purge, 1504. 9 years later. That's not a man who snapped. That's a man building a case. And while he waited, he tightened the leash. He made every minister wear a wooden plaque around their neck, called Shin Eon Pei. Carved into the wood, the mouth is the door to disaster. The tongue is the knife that cuts your body. Speak, and you die. And then, Right in the middle of this waiting game, he found someone who understood his wound better than anyone. Her name was Jang Noksu. Born to a nobleman's concubine, she inherited her mother's slave status. She survived by selling her body, married a slave, had a son, and somewhere in all that, she found the one thing she could do better than anyone: sing. People said she sang so beautifully it could make you cry. In 1502, the king launched a nationwide search for the most talented women in Korea. Noksu made the cut. She walked into the palace around 30, but looked 16. A face that young, a voice that devastating, and a mind sharper than any minister's. The royal records put it like this: she mocked the king as if he were an infant and cursed him as if he were her slave. In a court where one wrong word meant death. And he didn't punish her, he kept coming back. She found the 7-year-old boy still living inside the king, and she became his mother. For the first time in his life, the most dangerous man in Korea could stop performing. She had found his wound, and she pressed right into it. Once she had the king, the power came fast. She got her nanny's son a government post. She used royal ships to run a private rice trade. 7,000 sacks out of Pyongan province. That's not a side hustle, that's an empire. Her sister and nieces? Elevated from slave to commoner overnight. Then came the wall poster incident. Anonymous criticisms appeared on palace walls. Noksu pointed at 2 court ladies. No trial, no evidence. Both women torn apart by execution, their entire families killed alongside them. And in 1504, everything she had been feeding, all that grief, all that rage, was finally unleashed. Im Sa-hong brought the full story of his mother's death. Who pushed for it? Who signed off? Who looked away? The dam broke. 1504. The Gabja Sawa. 239 punished. 122 killed. 4.6 times the first purge. But the numbers don't tell the real story. The details do. He went after his father's consorts first, Lady Eom and Lady Jong, blamed for plotting against his mother. Had them dragged in and bound, heads covered in cloth sacks. Then he called in their sons, his own half-brothers, Prince Anyang and Prince Bongan, and ordered them to beat the figures in the sacks. Prince Anyang picked up the rod and struck. He didn't know who was inside. Prince Bongan was different. Something told him who was inside. He froze. Dropped the rod. Couldn't do it. Didn't matter. Yeonsangun had others finish the job. Both women beaten to death. The princes? Exiled. Executed the following year. The annals of Joseon record it plainly. He had their bodies cut apart, salted like fish, and scattered across the mountains and fields. Then he turned to the dead. Han Myung-ho had been in his grave for 17 years. Yeonsangun had the grave torn open, the head mounted on a pike. For Yun Pilsang, Sway Gol Pyo Pung, shatter the bones, scatter them in the wind. He confronted his grandmother, Grand Queen Dowager Insu. Why did you kill my mother? She died of shock days later. He turned a Buddhist temple into a drinking hall and conscripted women from every province, 93 for a group called the Hyung Chong. The Korean expression Hyung Chong Mangchong, meaning to live recklessly, comes from this. He banned Hangul itself because the anonymous protests were written in the people's script. But every empire built on fear has an expiration date. 1506. Officials stormed the palace at night. By morning, he was no longer king. Joseon's first coup, over in a single night. Exiled to Gyeodong Island, dead of plague 2 months later. He was 31. Jang Noksu was executed the moment the coup succeeded. The man who salted his enemies. The woman who hacked his mind. Both gone within months of each other. Remember the salted bodies? A boy who never got to grieve his mother, so he made the whole kingdom grieve instead. Power doesn't fix wounds. It just gives you bigger weapons to destroy yourself with.